My name is Chris Poitra. Graduated in 1999, and I currently work as a Deputy United States Marshal out of the Honolulu, Hawaii office. I actually wanted to be an engineer or an architect. I really enjoyed math in high school, and applying those concepts to that field was interesting to me. In high school, I was in football. I played basketball. I was in the honor society, and I also was in the math and social studies gifted and talented groups. I would say I don't know how they really the I would say the sports more so shaped my interest in what I do now. Just having that team aspect and having that in my background. I think a lot of it was just adapting to different social groups, whether that was in sports or some of the other clubs or just others, your other friends or other groups in school that maybe you didn't see all the time and they were just in your classes. I'd say mentors, my parents for sure. They showed me that hard work, putting in hard work could what it would lead to. As for teachers, I had a couple. There was a lot I think that influenced me, but the ones that stick out to me right now are Luther Olson, a math instructor, and Renee Ellen. She taught science classes. Another mentor that wasn't at the school system then, but I believe he is now, is Mike Blue. Um, he influenced me in a way that I didn't see my potential. I think he was playing football at the time. He pulled me aside one day and said something about maybe going to college and trying to play football, and that was never in my mind at all. So I walked on to Minot State and actually played football there. Without that mentorship, I don't think I would have ever pursued playing college football. I would say adapting to the different social groups. Right now, with my job, you gotta have to be able to talk to people. And growing up in a community like Belcourt, there's a whole mix of different social groups. So being able to have that from high school kind of helps, because everyone's kind of awkward in high school. But if you can manage to get into other groups, because I was kind of friends with a lot of different groups. I didn't seclude myself just to sports or just the school or my groups that I were in. So I kind of was friends with a lot of people. I'd say a lot of it had to revolve around sports. Uh, just the camaraderie that you get with your teammates and your coaches, and it's such a small community. You rely on those people, and when you're out in at other events like traveling to other high schools to play in the games and stuff like that. You really rely on those people, and those are some of the friends that you do associate a lot with in high school, I feel like. But yeah, some of those times were fun because you weren't in the school setting. You got to express yourself a little differently. I would say to be more engaged in events outside of sports. I wish I would have participated more in band. Like right now, as an adult, I wish I could play an instrument, and then taking more advantage of the trades. Right now, owning a home, being an adult, those kind of things you don't think about when you're 16, 17 years old, fixing your house, doing little things around the house. That would be one thing. And then with sports, I would say taking advantage of the off season and having more dedication to that, I think would have paid off dividends um, going into college and even within high school itself. But I kind of got wrapped up in uh, working, hanging out with friends, doing normal college stuff and not taking full advantage of the opportunities that I did have that wasted time, I guess. I would say put the work in, put in the work, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's at home, whether it's at, your in your faith. Don't stress about like making the grade all the time. I think kids get caught up with, whether I think it's the expectations that maybe parents hold, which isn't a bad thing. But, you're always if you're a good student, you always kind of want to maintain that higher level, and you kind of maybe forget about the other stuff, some of your friends or some of your social life during that time. And then, it goes along with that. It's, like at the end of the day, when you graduate high school, it's a diploma saying that you met the requirement to graduate, but it doesn't define, who you are as a person. So I think stressing about making grades all the time it's important, but it's not the number one thing. I know teachers probably don't want to hear me say all that. So currently my job now, as a Deputy United States Marshal, we have a lot of core responsibilities. One of them is protecting judges, any attorneys, and probation, parole. So that's one of our core missions. Arresting fugitives on federal or state warrants is another one of our missions. And another thing that I do is kind of maintain and track non-compliant sex offenders and try to prosecute them for those crimes. When I lived back in North Dakota, so I was the Deputy U.S. Marshal. I was stationed in the Minot office from 2014 to 2020. I did take pride in when I went back to Belcourt. I know I was arresting people, but I also felt like I was making the community safer. Some people maybe not have seen it that way, but when there's criminals out there, there's a process that has to happen, right? And yes, going to jail is one of those processes, but people always seen it as being the bad person. But, I have a job to do, so I tried to fulfill that. And I have family that lives there. So I wanted to try to keep that community safe. Remember from how I grew up there. It's been over 20 years since I've lived back in Belcourt, but, my parents still live there. So I do take a lot of pride in that. Oh, goals during high school. I'd say that's kind of hard. The goals, I think that then they change throughout your life, but I think my main goal was to get a job, right? And as it sounds, I didn't want to see myself staying in the community and living there, and there's nothing bad about it. I just wasn't for me. I seen that there was more to, my career field that I was going into. But I never thought that, when I was in high school, I would have been a federal law enforcement officer. And, I'm 5 years away from retiring. So the goals definitely have changed along the way. And I think people, I kind of look at that as a 3 and a 5 year all the time. So there's always things I'm trying to obtain within those 3 to 5 years. But back then it was just getting through college was the big thing. Not so much now that I've moved away. I've lived down in Hawaii now since 2020. And when I lived back in Belcourt too, it was different because I had moved away from Belcourt when the last time I lived there was when I was 19 years old. So it's been a while. I do go back and visit my parents and family occasionally, just not as much as I would like to, just from where I live now. I would say just still having that good work ethic, remembering going through periods of high school that, seemed daunting, but looking at the big picture now and seeing that there's an end in sight. It's just that putting in the work, the hard work and dedication to what I did during my school time now, and then now just trying to keep that up in my daily life. So in the near future here, I've been in the Marshal Service, our federal government now for 17 years, and we can retire at 20 years. So at 50 is when I can retire. So that's 5 years from now. But um, between now and then, I would like to maybe see myself getting in a supervisory role, just trying to help the future deputy U.S. Marshals, and then try to attain then is just continuing to work hard at what I'm doing now, and just having that resiliency to always go back to try to get that whatever that goal is done. Yeah, I think I kind of touched on that a little bit before, but don't get caught up in some of the nonsense and drama, and as high school can be, maybe are in the community. That it seems like my wife is a teacher now, and that she tells me some of the things that happens in their community, in their school. But I would say don't get caught up in all that. Try moving away from home. You just be surprised where things may take you. Like I said earlier, I never would have imagined myself living in Hawaii when I was in high school, or been in the position that I'm in now, being able to see the world and living where I'm living, I guess, and doing what I'm doing. I'd say dream big. Don't sell yourself short, because just because you think that you don't fit into one group or pocket of people doesn't mean that there isn't something that you can do within that. And don't stress all the small stuff that high school can present. Just put in the work and remain dedicated to your craft, and I think you'd be successful. Yeah, I would say any kind of experience that you can get within law enforcement is beneficial. Um, and whether it's being in a jail, being a county cop, being a city cop. I worked at the Dakota Boys and Girls Ranch in Minot. That was some good experience because it gives you a lot of time talking to individuals. But again, like I said, don't sell yourself short on maybe you don't fit into that mold. There's a lot of positions in law enforcement that are maybe behind the scenes, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting work type of things that not everyone does. Whether it's especially with computers now, there's all kinds of analysts that you can do, data entry stuff, and it seems minute, but there are things. Everyone has some kind of a system that they use that needs updating. So just because it's the federal government doesn't mean that you can't be an IT person there. It's just so vast. There's so many different things that you can get involved with. It's just opening up your vision and seeing what other possibilities there are.